These are the owners who scammed their customers in broad daylight.
How the is that special in your tiny mind when it was cooked a week ago?
I don't have a tiny mind.
Oh, let's not sugarcoat this. When Chef Ramsay found maggots in the kitchen of the secret garden, it was one of those moments where you felt your stomach flip just watching it.
Maggots. Oh, infested with the maggots. Oh, God.
The secret garden in Moore Park, California wasn't just a bad restaurant, it was a full-blown disaster in a tuxedo. The name promised charm and elegance, but what you got was closer to a haunted antique shop with a side of food poisoning. Not to forget, they were on a debt for a whooping sum of $320,000.
This is depressing, look at that. If the restaurant keeps going the way it's going, I won't be able to keep the doors open.
I mean, no customers would ever want to come here and be served under such pathetic conditions. Let's begin with the food Chef Ramsay tried. And let me tell you, it was all horrible to say the least. His final verdict?
It's lazy, it's dirty, and it's just bad. I mean, really crap.
That pretty much sums it up. However, next came the kitchen heavens. Chef Ramsay stepped in and immediately looked like he needed therapy.
When was the last time that was clean?
Oh my God, it's so dirty. Oh.
Grease covered everything, and there were ingredients in there that probably could have walked out on their own. To add to that, food was left to rot in the fridge.
Mold everywhere. The food's been in this fridge for so long, even the fridge has now started to go moldy.
If bacteria had a dream home, this was it. Chef Ramsay stumbled upon something that took the nightmare to a whole new level. Just prepare yourselves for this.
Maggots. Oh, infested with the maggots. Oh, God.
Actual wriggling maggots crawling around in the storage area like they owned the place. Chef Ramsay's reaction? Pure, unfiltered disgust. He recoiled so hard you'd think he just stepped on a landmine. The worst part? Michelle didn't even seem to grasp the seriousness of the situation.
This guy with the attitude that has no idea what's going on insults me, tells me that he doesn't have to, his restaurant bullshit.
Chef Ramsay looked at him like he was about to explode, completely baffled by how anyone could let things get this bad. The maggots were the literal squirming cherry on top of an already revolting kitchen. It was the kind of discovery that makes you question how this place was even allowed to operate. Anyway, then came the full dinner service. Maybe not really full.
The feeling when you walk in and there's nothing, it's kind of like a slap in the face.
As for the customers that actually came and ordered, they weren't just disappointed, they were visibly angry.
I'm getting a little cranky.
And honestly, who could blame them? Their food was taking forever to arrive. That's not all, this was what they were being served.
Strawberries aren't even ripe there.
We've been doing it for a while, people love it.
Yeah, sure they do, and that's why your restaurant was a big mess. Plates were sent back, meals went untouched, and people probably left swearing never to eat French food again. And the service? Let's just say you'd get better hospitality at a DMV. The owner, Michelle, was the king of arrogance, blaming everyone else for the mess while stubbornly clinging to his outdated menu and bad ideas.
I will scream at everybody, so wait 5 minutes.
When I lose my temper, it's time for you to run.
He acted like he was running a Michelin-starred restaurant, but in reality, he was barely running anything at all. The staff? Lost, unmotivated, and probably questioning all of their life choices.
Thank you. Because I'm going to find a manager.
The kitchen is closed.
To me, this is the lowest day of this restaurant's life.
Orders were late, wrong, or forgotten entirely, and the vibe was so cold, you'd need a jacket just to make it through the meal.
I'm mad because everyone's gotten their entree and I haven't gotten anything.
The secret garden was beyond saving when Chef Ramsay arrived, but somehow he managed to pull it back from the brink, at least temporarily. Whether Michelle could keep it together after Chef Ramsay left? Let's just say, if this garden had stayed secret, it probably would have been for the best. Next up, we've got a place that promises the luxurious taste of fresh Maine lobster, but plot twist, they're serving something else entirely.
The Canadian lobsters are always a lot cheaper. I use the Canadian lobsters for raviolis and tagliatelles and spaghetti, but they're not Maine lobsters.
False advertising at its finest, and trust me, you won't believe how far they'll go to scam their customers. Let's get into it. Chef Ramsay headed to Black Pearl, a seafood spot in New York City that specializes in lobster. But the chaos already begins here as the place was run by 3 owners, Brian, David, and Greg. And what's worse?
Brian and Greg and I stopped speaking. We would try to communicate via email and text messaging, and everybody got nervous and frustrated.
They just couldn't get along. They barely communicated, avoided being at the restaurant at the same time, and left the staff stuck dealing with the chaos. Oh, and they were $250,000 in debt. How can a place ever serve well to customers when the management itself is in the gutters? That wasn't all. Hygiene was basically non-existent in this restaurant.
This table had a hair in their fries. I don't want to deal with this.
When Chef Ramsay arrived, the staff wasted no time spilling the drama.
How's business?
Could be better.
In came David in his black sunnies, being all macho. Immediately, he claimed he was super hands-on, but he only showed up a few days a week.
You are
One of the three owners.
one of the 3 owners. And are you hands-on or hands-off?
Hands up.
Chef Ramsay sat down to try their food, hoping for something amazing. And let me tell you, he ordered the best items off the menu. And how did it go? The chowder was watery,
What a shame.
the mac and cheese was chewy, and the lobster rolls? Brace yourselves for what he's about to say.
Horrible. Soaking wet bread. It's like eating a fucking wet diaper.
Oh gosh. He really ripped apart that dish in true Chef Ramsay fashion. If this was their best, they were in big trouble. Dinner service was a hot mess. But finally, all 3 owners actually showed up for once. But instead of working together, they made things worse.
I think it was a competition amongst the 3 owners to try and prove to Chef Ramsay that they knew what they were doing.
The food finally started making its way out of the kitchen, and you'd think that would be a good thing, right? Wrong.
Hey, how you guys doing? I believe this may be raw.
Disaster struck as plates of raw and undercooked shrimp were served to unsuspecting customers. Raw shrimp, can you believe it? But hold on, it gets worse. Enter David, stepping in as the expediter, supposedly to save the day. Spoiler alert, he did not save the day. If anything, he made things 10 times worse.
Both are terribly sent.
Yeah, there should be sand in this here. There often is, and that's why you have the broth to dip them in.
But just when you thought that was all, Chef Ramsay dug around and found even more issues.
They're all from Maine.
These are Maine, some from Canada.
They look Canadian lobsters to me. Yeah.
They were advertising Maine lobster, but serving Canadian lobster instead, big no-no.
They're not Maine lobsters.
Ah, the poor customers were being fooled all this while. At this point, Chef Ramsay was done. He called a staff meeting and had everyone air their frustrations. The team agreed the place needed a proper leader, and they voted for Greg to be the general. On relaunch night, things started off shaky. The kitchen was slow, and Greg struggled to take charge, but the customers were thrilled with the food. It was a wild ride, and whether they could turn it around, well, that was still up in the air.
Fine dining. A fine mess.
But wait till you hear Chef Ramsay's verdict for this next restaurant. Hannah and Mason's was a little bistro in Cranberry, New Jersey. It started off with big dreams, but by the time it landed on kitchen nightmares, it was nothing short of a disaster zone.
You're gonna kill someone! I'm eating here! Partners in crime!
This wasn't just a restaurant in trouble, it was a ticking time bomb of filth and terrible food. When I say terrible, you can imagine the level of terrible after hearing Chef Ramsay's comment about the French onion soup.
Really tasteless. It tastes like I've just had the dregs from the dishwasher.
The lamb, another disaster.
It's an absolute nightmare to cut. Undercooked. It's hideous.
Anyway, moving on to the dinner service. One word for it, chaos. Chaos in the kitchen, chaos in the dining hall, the service, chaos at every corner. When I say terrible food, it's not just the taste I'm talking about, because how could you explain this?
What's that?
That's apple cobbler.
When was that made?
Well, it's anyone's guess, chef. I mean, not more than a week ago.
Yep, they were intending to serve the customers a week-old dish. Completely unacceptable. If that wasn't enough, this was the condition of the salads.
There's lettuce all rotten there.
I mean, they can't be called salads if it isn't freshly made with fresh ingredients. There's more. The spinach.
Sir, has it been washed?
I did not wash that. I did not know.
We don't wash spinach.
You got pre-wash.
All rotting away, and the lazy staff didn't even bother to wash it because they came pre-washed. Charging people for rotten and stale food. Don't even get me started on the bread pudding. Just look at this nightmare.
That's gross. We'll get rid of all of that.
That's not all. It had been lying there for who knows how long that it started to smell atrocious and fishy.
Smell it. Yeah, that's disgusting.
A bread pudding smelling like a literal shrimp. Yikes. Chef Ramsay was furious at this point. He could not take it anymore.
Yeah, I've just been watching and shitting myself for the last hour. What are you doing to people? Give me an answer!
Exactly. What were they actually doing? Only putting the customer's health at risk, honestly. Meanwhile, diners sat waiting forever for their food, only to be served with zero professionalism or enthusiasm. And the walk-in refrigerator? It was an absolute horror show. When Chef Ramsay walked in, he practically recoiled in disgust.
I cannot believe what you guys are doing here.
There was so much going on, my head was spinning.
Stale bacons, disorganized and unclean dishes, and a whole lot of mess. That wasn't all. What he found next made Chef Ramsay lose his mind completely.
Oh my God! Chris, it's chicken against raw chicken!
Chef Ramsay was not having it all. His anger was shooting up through the roof. The dinner service was immediately shut down because of obvious reasons.
Oh, you don't understand here and watch you serve contaminated food?
No.
Yeah. Yep. Shut it down, switch it off, and condemn it.
It was so bad that Chef Ramsay openly questioned how anyone hadn't gotten seriously ill yet. It wasn't an easy fix, but Chef Ramsay pulled Hannah and Mason's back from the brink. But now, this next spot was a 40-year-old restaurant called the Seascape Inn in Islip, New York. However, it was less of a seaside escape and more of a culinary crime scene when it landed on kitchen nightmares.
You wouldn't believe the amount of customers we had. On Saturday night, they'd actually stand on line outside the door.
The place that was once crowded and buzzing was now just not struggling. It was spiraling into oblivion with a trifecta of disasters. Now, what exactly led to the downfall of this place? Let's start with the state of the restaurant. From the moment you walked in, it was like stepping into a time capsule if that time capsule smelled like stale grease and despair.
We've had complaints about that sewage smell.
There was a stink in this place so bad.
The fact that customers even came there in the first place surprises me. And the decor. It was outdated and drab, giving off strong your grandma's basement vibes, but that was the least of its problems. In came Chef Ramsay and ordered his first item off the menu, crab cakes, but our Chef Ramsay liked it to call it something else.
It's not a crab cake. It's a crap cake. Because I feel if I eat any more, I'll be crapping for the next 105 years.
Damn, that was truly hilarious. Classic Chef Ramsay. The food was so disappointing that Chef Ramsay was speaking straight up facts when he said this.
You can't expect customers to come and pay for that shit.
But let's get into the real deal. The workstation where all this mess gets prepared. And let me warn you now, things got truly horrifying.
Looks like lather of shit and crap.
And then he found the gem, the pesto, he had eaten earlier.
Just look at the colors in there. Look at that. It's moldy.
The kitchen was filled with grease, filth, stale food and whatnot. And Chef Ramsay was furious. Hygiene was basically non-existent.
Why have we got product in there? Why are you using it? Why is it not condemned?
That wasn't all. Chef Ramsay dug even deeper into his investigation, and the things he discovered were truly shocking.
You've eaten it! Smell that then.
It smells sour. Probably sour on the outside.
Are you f***ing mad?
To be honest, that didn't look edible at all. And it was difficult to even make out what that was. But just wait till you hear what excuse the head chef had.
I'm just not a throwaway person.
That was cooked on Friday and I had to recook it Saturday. That's what you gotta do.
Are you kidding me? Just because you're not a throwaway person doesn't mean you serve stale food to the customers. Such people should be banned from owning restaurants. The place looked like a breeding ground for bacteria, and it's a miracle anyone dared to eat there. And Chef Ramsay was not having it at all.
Off with it. Touch the wall! You dirty pig! This is disgusting!
Anyway, then came the dinner service. And how did it go? Oh, it was a catastrophe. Diners were served overcooked, bland, and greasy dishes that looked and tasted like they'd been scraped off the bottom of a deep fryer.
Roast and it's cooked and recooked and recooked.
It's a little bit too pinky for me.
Customers weren't just dissatisfied, they were visibly offended by what was being put on their plates. Chef Ramsay ordered them to immediately shut down the service.
We're not cooking a f***ing cookie out of here.
It was only the best thing to do. As if that wasn't bad enough, the staff were untrained, unmotivated, and lazy. Orders were botched, complaints were ignored, and the whole operation ran slower than a snail stuck in quicksand. The Seascape Inn was a train wreck, no doubt about it. But Chef Ramsay managed to give it a second chance. Whether it stayed on track after his intervention, that's a whole other story. But without Chef Ramsay, this place would have sunk faster than a stone in the Atlantic. But you haven't seen a restaurant struggling like this next one right here? Chef Ramsay rolled up to Zeke's restaurant in Metairie, Louisiana, and let's just say they were already doomed to fail.
Today's lasagna that's been served was made a week ago.
Zeke's had once been the hotspot for seafood and Creole dishes, thanks to James Zeke Unangst, who opened it in 2002. But after Zeke's sudden passing post-Hurricane Katrina, Daryl and Ellen Cortello took over, and things went south fast. By 2011, customers were furious, prices were soaring, and the food was, well, Let's just say it wasn't impressing anyone.
He went to lesser quality.
Wouldn't feed that to your dog.
And then on top of that, he raised the prices.
Chef Ramsay swoops in, orders up a classic spread, boiled shrimp, oysters, fried chicken steak, and bread pudding. First bite, the shrimp was frozen and not fresh.
What I'm struggling for here is the lack of freshness. They feel and taste slightly mushy, which is a big disappointment.
That's a crime in New Orleans, by the way, and the oysters, straight up tasteless. Chef Ramsay couldn't hold back, cracking that he wouldn't even name the oysters after his worst enemy.
Oysters named after the owner. I certainly wouldn't put my name on that. I wouldn't even put my enemy's name on that.
But just wait what he had to say about the fried chicken steak.
What the hell is that? It looks like it's just had a giraffe's tongue cut out and deep fat fried.
What a classic critique. Pure comedy. It does look like a giraffe's tongue though. But then, miracle of miracles, Chef Ramsay actually liked the bread pudding. A lone survivor in a sea of disaster. Anyway, the dinner service was a mess. All of it. Let's start with the night's specials lasagna. Wanna know why was it in the specials?
When was the lasagna made?
Last Thursday.
Last Thursday. And today's Thursday, right?
Correct.
The only speciality about it was that it was a week old. What's with these restaurants' obsession over serving weeks old food? The tiny-minded owner really thought it was okay to do it.
Lasagna, it's all done fresh, cooked, and we'll wrap the portions up separately. We'll put them in the freezer. It works.
No, it doesn't work. That's scary and hazardous. And the service? Those dishes took quite a while to leave the kitchen.
It doesn't concern you that the food's just dying in the window?
Next, Chef Ramsay did what was rightly needed to be done.
Today's lasagna that's been served was made a week ago.
The announcement was crucial because the poor customers deserved to know what they were being fed. Chef Ramsay goes full detective mode in the kitchen and uncovers some jaw-dropping secrets. The owners were cutting corners like it was a competitive sport.
Why wouldn't you buy fresh shrimp?
Simply don't have the time to go to the market.
Fresh shrimp? Nah, that's too much work. Frozen shrimp it is. And the meat, don't even get me started.
What cut of meat was that?
Not a very good cut.
No. Are you proud to serve that food?
No, sir.
Chef Emile spills the tea. Daryl can't be bothered to visit the market for fresh ingredients.
Why have you changed the standard?
It's up to Daryl.
And what does that lead to? A stale lasagna, cold food, and very unhappy customers. Yikes. But Chef Ramsay wasn't having any of it. He took the place and flipped it on its head.
Do you honestly think, just because they don't send it back, that your food is amazing? That's good enough for you to continue.
Despite all that chaos, Chef Ramsay managed to break through to Daryl and Ellen. The big relaunch day came, and guess what? The disgruntled old customers came back and loved the new food and menu. Who knew Zeke's had a shot at a second chance, right? But I don't think we can say the same about this next restaurant right here. PJ's Steakhouse was in total chaos when Chef Ramsay showed up.
Look at that. Oh.
It was located in the fancy Forest Hills neighborhood in Queens, New York. It was meant to honor Joe's late brother, PJ. But here's the thing, Joe and Madeline had no clue what they were doing in the restaurant world. Joe had a background in construction, so running a restaurant, not exactly in his wheelhouse.
We have absolutely no idea what we're doing here. Just a big disaster.
They'd already sunk a whopping $2 million into the place and were losing money faster than you can say steakhouse. The whole situation was a mess, and it was clear that Chef Ramsay's visit might be their last shot at saving the place. It couldn't get worse before you find out how rude they were towards the customers. Just watch how Madeline speaks towards them.
Red meat is red meat. I don't know what you would expect myself to do about that.
Customer service at its absolute worst. Chef Ramsay walked in, and the first thing he notices, it's dead empty inside. There was foot traffic outside, but not a soul inside. But wait, the biggest scam this restaurant was up to was this.
2 steaks on the menu in a steakhouse. Should be minimum 8 to 10.
Chef Ramsay ordered the usual, crab cakes, roasted garlic ravioli, and of course, filet mignon. The crab cakes arrived, and let's just say Chef Ramsay wasn't impressed.
Wow, that's disgusting. It's rancid.
To make things worse, he found this
plastic bits of crap running through the crab cakes.
Yup, there were literal plastic bits mixed in. Yikes. The steak wasn't much better, tough as nails, and the ravioli...
That looks like the biggest pile of shit.
That was just by the look of it. Now, wait till he takes a bite.
The raviolis are disgusting.
It was starting to make sense why this place was so quiet. Oh, of course, relaxing in front of the TV during work hours is absolutely essential. I mean, serving that packed, bustling dining room must be exhausting after all, right? Anyway, Chef Ramsay watched the dinner service that night, and wow, it was a total disaster. He was shocked seeing the swamp kitchen and let out a hilarious comment in true Chef Ramsay fashion.
This is a steakhouse, yes? PJ Steakhouse.
PJ Steakhouse.
Yeah, pathetic joke. That's what it stands for.
Meanwhile, the wait time was insane, up to 2 hours for food, and hungry customers were getting hangry.
It usually takes 2 hours to eat here. From
2 hours.
2 hours from start to finish.
Then Chef Ramsay checks out the storage area, and it was even worse.
Look at that.
Rotten and moldy fruits and veggies. Chef Ramsay was not having it at all.
Dealing with the restaurant and the food and the customers one thing, but where the f start with that?
And the owner's response to this?
Why should I have to worry about this shit?
Is it your business?
You're the goddamn owner of the restaurant. Please act like one. Later, Chef Ramsay got feedback from the locals, and let's just say they weren't holding back.
It was not a pleasant experience.
When was the last visit to PJ's?
6 months ago, I boycotted it.
Eventually, the place was renamed to PJ's Grill, and this place seemed to be on the right track until it wasn't anymore. And that's a wrap on today's video. Don't forget to like, share, and turn on my post notifications. And if you thought this video was crazy, you better check out the next one right here. It's a must watch.
Get the fuck out right now.
Out. Done.
You get out.
Done. You're done.
I'm done.
You're done. Gone. Bye.
Done.
Goodbye.
Out of here.
Bye.